Snip, 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 cut through the throat. The head rolls off, the soul's afloat. Snip, 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 cut through the throat. Thariel? Yes, Thariel. Back then he still existed. Now he's gone. Now there's only Brother Wrath. He killed them all, you know. Lethal, Wilma, have all of them gone or dead. Because we couldn't enter the cold flesh. We screamed. We screamed as loud as we could. Because it hurt so bad. But then, that would have made him angry. Because then he couldn't concentrate anymore. But what else should we have done? It just hurt so bad. No matter how much of the blue juice he gave us, it always hurt so bad. Father. Yes, our father. We never saw his face, you know. She always wore this mask, this terrible, scary mask. Yes, he wanted to make us happy. That's what she always said, that she wanted to make us happy. At first I believed him, but then they took Letho. Letho, they just came in and took him into the room. I heard him scream. Hours and hours, and then suddenly silence. Silence for eternity. But I shouldn't talk so much. Too much talking makes the father angry. Just let me sleep, will you? Just sleep. What are you doing here? What happened? Remember? What should I remember? I was dizzy, so I took a nap. Must have been the hunger. I didn't have a meal in 2 days. Seizure? What do you mean? What? But... why? What did I say? I see. It must have been this place. It brought back my memories. What do you want to hear? I have no idea what that was. Same as you. No, I don't. But it doesn't matter. We should focus on the task at hand. What about the safe? Did you find anything? Look, I just don't want to talk about it right now. Is that so hard to understand? Now tell me, what about the safe? The documents? Let me see. Can you believe it? That's a list of all the children who were sold. Name, age, price. She sold us like cattle. I don't know whether to cry or laugh. But it doesn't say anything about what the father did to us. Did you find anything else? Shit. Well, what did I expect? It was worth a try. Do you want to know something? Shagun... I didn't think she actually did it. When I first heard of her involvement in the matter, I always thought she was living proof that not everybody can be corrupted if you shove enough money up their ass. Seems I was wrong. Yeah, of course. Did I? Tell me, what is it to you? Why do you care? As if talking ever helps, but fine. You gave me little reason to distrust you, so why the fuck not? If we're unlucky, neither of us will be alive anymore 2 days from now. Come. Let's find somewhere to sit. Sit. All right. Let's keep this brief. My family discarded me as a child, and no, I don't blame them. I was weak, frail, and always ill. It was unlikely that I would see 5 winters. Nonsense. Keeping me would have burdened the entire family. What they did wasn't cruel. It was necessary. Cruelty is something else. Cruelty is inflicting suffering when it's avoidable, or simply for pleasure. Sadist scum like Carlian, lust murderers or mad cult leaders who stop at nothing to get their way. Not even the corpses of children. I don't know. I've forgotten most of it. I am, thanks to Letho. It must have been 6 winters back then, whereas I was 4 or 5. I don't remember. He found me in the gutter and took me in. I'm not sure you realize what that means. Surviving alone is hard enough as it is for an urchin child. But taking care of someone else, it decreases your chances even more. Letho didn't care. He saw me, he let me sleep in a pile of hay he called his bed, and shared his bread with me. I still have no idea why he did it. In the sewers. It's full of robbers and thieves and other scum nowadays, but back then, there were lots of secret corners and tunnels for a child to hide in. The good old days. I don't know. They never wanted to talk about it. Not even later, in the orphanage. It did, but there were a limited number of beds. New beds only became available if an orphan reached the age of 12 and was sent back onto the streets. Or, of course, if one died. What they had was a list. You could have them put your name on there, and every time a new bed became free, the orphans would be called into the alley, and the list was read out aloud from top to bottom. Strange feeling, as you could imagine. When Letho was 8, and I was about 7, we both got lucky and got a bed. We spent 5 years there. And 1 moon before the abduction by the Rhalata, shortly before his 12th birthday, I swore to him that I'd come with him once they put him back on the streets. Now, I don't know if you can understand this, but the thought that he'd be out there while I slept in my bunk bed, I just couldn't accept it. What do you think? He called me an idiot, and rightly so, because I was still the frail little kid I had been when my parents abandoned me, and that ugly cough that I had would still come back every time winter returned. Still, had push come to shove, I would have followed him. Nothing and no one could have stopped me. Peaceful. It sounds strange to say it after all that's happened, but if I'm being honest, the years in the refuge were the only truly peaceful time in my life. Of course, it wasn't a picnic. Food was scarce because the orphanage stayed afloat only through donations, and we had to work a lot. You know, clean, cook, tend to the garden. But still, we had a home. Or at least we thought we did. Back then, I didn't, but in retrospect, I should have. For example, there were those twin sisters. One morning we woke up and they were gone. Shagun wouldn't say a word about it, but we thought it was because they'd died and she was in mourning. Now I know better. Yes, me and Letho. I still remember that day as though it was yesterday. It had been an exhausting day and my cough had come back. Shagun put out the candles and we fell asleep. Then, all of a sudden, they were there, right in front of our beds. We screamed. We struggled. Tried to flee, but it didn't matter. Uncle Nalek was there to help the masked men to calm us. Shagun and the other adults, they just stood by and watched. Can you imagine? They just stood there and fucking watched. You know the rest of the story. They put sacks over our faces and threw us into a carriage, like cattle on their way to the slaughterhouse. Then, darkness. The next clear memory I have is awaking on a pile of bodies in the corpse pit. No. Of course I looked through that corpse pile as well as I could, but there was no one there. No one. It was real, you know? Letho and I were there for each other through it all, and he was my best friend, my brother, my family. Damn it, he was the only one I ever had. And now he's dead. His skeleton's probably rotting somewhere in the sewers, if the father's experiments left any of his body at all. I don't know if you can even remotely understand how much I hate this person. He is evil incarnate. It's that simple. What do you think I am? An idiot? Of course I looked for him. For weeks, months, fucking years. But nobody had seen him or even knew who I was talking about. For them, he was just another dead orphan in the caves. Backup. I don't believe in backup anymore. Just look around, will you? This thing we call our world. What is it if you take away the glitter? A ring? A fucking arena? They all just care about their own ends, and they are willing to do anything to see them through. Lie, steal, murder. And now? Now they're talking about the red madness, as if things hadn't always been the way they are now. Friendship is a privilege for the young and foolish. Letho always believed in the good in people. And look where it got him. It doesn't? Then fate has a bad sense of humor. Yeah, you'd know. What is it to you? Can it? If you ask me, there's nothing more superficial than love. Well, okay, let me ask you this. Imagine a man with terrible burn scars on his face. What do you think? Would it be that man the women dream of when the bards sing of a knight in shining armor coming to their rescue? Exactly. The love you're talking about. It's a simple equation. If you're attractive, rich, or powerful, you might get to enjoy it. If not, have fun. That's one of the few teachings of the Rhalata I actually agree with. Like a brother. That's different. That was by far the most stupid thing you've said tonight. Yes, I have put a lot of thought into these things. That doesn't mean I don't stand by my opinion. Quite the contrary. No. Just one of the most banal feelings we're capable of. Yeah. You know, being on my own, as you put it doesn't bother me. Not at all. I know how it must sound to you, but if you're alone, you're invincible. The worst anybody can do to you is kill you. And since death is the end of all feeling, it doesn't matter anymore. Friends, family, love, they leave you open, exposed. For me, things are simple. If the father kills me, I have failed. But at least there'll be no one to mourn my loss. No widow, no children, no friends. A clean cut, as though I never existed. I'll see when we get there. Either way, we've wasted enough time. As I said, it might be hours before the father decides, or if we're unlucky, weeks or months. I'll send out a messenger if I learn something, and should anything unusual happen, just meet me at my hideout. I'll be there for an hour every day before nightfall. Until then. Do that.
Dawn is coming. Seek the first seer.
Huh? Please, just leave me be.
My sir.
Interesting. I was just thinking about you. Ah, never mind. What is it? Called you? What do you mean? Did he send a messenger? Psionics. Figures. No, it wasn't your dream. It was an illusion. He must have planted it in your head while you were at the temple and simply triggered it last night. A mental puppet play, if you want to call it that. No idea. Probably some kind of passphrase. Well, go see him. You'll see what this is all about then, but I'm pretty sure he's considering you for the mission. And this is his last test. In other words, our plan has worked. Correct. And, thank you for filling me in on this. What?
Huh? Please just...
Rhalata Shirah, sleeper.
Something you want to tell me?
Rhalata Shirah.
Pity. He was a good man.
You? I thought my instructions were clear. Wait until you hear from us. A dream? That? Oh, I understand. Then go see Brother Sorrow at once and tell him the same thing. He will lead you to the Father. It doesn't matter. That is correct. Which is why I hope that you realize how great an honor this is. Go up to the tower, deeper into the mountain. At the end of the hallway, you'll find stairs ending in a wall. Now go! The Father must not be kept waiting.
Nothing.
I don't believe that. He wouldn't just run away like that. You knew him.
Well, maybe I didn't. Maybe none of us did. Maybe he was like Sister Pride after all.
I beg you, brother, just 5 minutes.
No.
But I am ready. I can feel it, don't you understand? And if only the Father could see me now, he'd see it too. Please, Brother Sorrow. I know that the last step is near. I want to be there when it's done.
No.
You'll see. You'll bloody see. All of you.
Go. I understand. You may pass. Descend. You'll see.
So you received my message. Good. Come, take a seat. I will be with you in a moment. Well then, good to finally meet you in person. I would introduce myself to you, but you already know who I am. That is correct. The First Seer has already told me about you. He said that you and Brother Wrath recovered the lost pages, and also that you are, how should I say, unusual. He did not lie, as I see now. You do indeed have something peculiar about you. Tell me, how do you feel about Brother Wrath? Farrell, as you call him? Well, do you feel sympathy, antipathy, affection, hatred, or maybe even a connection of sorts? I see. Be that as it may, the First Seer had nothing but praise for you, and suggested that I consider you for our expedition, and I have, provided that you are still interested. Good to hear. The formalities first. You will receive 250 pennies in advance, and another 250 if the mission turns out to be a success. A generous pay, as you no doubt realize. I assume you know that it will be dangerous. Nonetheless, I would like you to understand the background of this undertaking fully if you are to work with us. Come. I present the human body, a simulacrum. It's not. As I said, I want you to understand. Does the name Manit Dalgalang sound familiar to you? The man who left his body. He was one of the former Grand Masters of the Order, a righteous man, but also of a very reclusive nature. It is said that Dalgalang had always been a little peculiar. Thus, he made freeing himself from this sense of estrangement his purpose in life. Yes, as though life was a bad play that his body was forced to take part in, Dalgalang despised all the other things people enjoyed. He didn't copulate, ate only as much as his body needed, and slept very little. Well, one day he vanished, just like that, in the bright light of day, during one of his meditations at the Eye of the Gods. Even though there were observers, the Order didn't record his vanishing in the chronicles for obvious reasons. According to them, Dalgalang simply disappeared on a pilgrimage. I believe so. He succeeded in freeing his spirit from the vessel of his body, and the strange occurrences that happened after confirm my theory. His mother, for example, insisted that he visited her in spectral form at the death feast, and told her that he was sorry. His servant, who was the closest thing Dalgalang had to a friend, heard his voice when he laid down flowers at his pathstone. Or the keepers, who saw a ghost meditating in his former laboratory at night. All coincidences or phantasms, you may say, but to me, it is clear that Dalgalang achieved his goal. He managed to separate his soul from his body. He achieved transcendence. I suppose you could say that, yes. Dalgalang was among the first humans to realize how misguided we are and how little of our potential we actually use. When I first heard his story, I instantly recognized myself in him. In particular, his fascination with the idea of overcoming our fleshly nature. I was enthralled and made this idea the purpose of my life, which finally led me to found the Rhalata. Frankly, I still find it baffling how few people share this quest. All they care about is the satisfaction of their carnal desires. They are so proud of what separates them from a pig, and yet they achieve little else in their lives. Eat, copulate, die. And all it would take to show them what their minds are capable of would be a glimpse into their dreams. Either way, I digress. Well, are we not freer in our dreams than we could ever be in waking life? We can have our bodies take on every shape there is, and time and space are meaningless. Imagine having this kind of freedom in reality. Exactly, and that's where you come in. As it turns out, the secret to transcendence was hidden in the lost pages of J.L. Tannyson's book, where he describes his initiation ritual in the Room of Paintings. That is correct. But I have had the pleasure of talking to some of them over the centuries, and was able to convince them to divulge their secrets to me. It's not some kind of room. The Room of Paintings is a force of nature, one that has the power to change you in a way that far exceeds the ability of normal magic. Either way, I will spare you the details. What you need to know is that we believe the Room of Paintings to be inside a temple we excavated over the past years. And that is what this expedition is about. You and the other mercenaries will venture into its depths and establish a portal for Myra Lame and me to step through once you found the room. where we will finally sever our minds from our bodies. Correct. It will prevail. Only the Rhalata who have proven themselves worthy will ascend with me. The rest of them will stay behind with the first seer, who will take over the mask. Then, when the time comes, they will follow us. No. First, because I have reason to believe that the weak-willed among us wouldn't survive the separation. Second, because our teachings are too important to risk them getting lost. Someone needs to continue spreading our faith. What it is or who built it, I can't say. Only that it must have been an ancient civilization, and by ancient, I mean one that existed long before the Pyreans. The Black Libra, the cult the Butcher of Ark belonged to, merely used this place to conduct their rituals of initiation. In the Frost-Cliffed Mountains, that's where you will go. They could, but the temple is dangerous. Only if you let them eat you. According to my research, 4 groups need to enter the temple simultaneously through its 4 individual entrances. These groups will be made up of 2 mercenaries and 1 voice each to guide you. Once you found the temple, your mission will be considered a success, and you will be paid. Any questions? I don't know. Finding that out is part of your mission. As soon as possible, after this conversation has ended, you will make your way to the excavation site and wait for my arrival. Since you've already worked with Brother Wrath, you will form a group with him and another mercenary I will choose myself. Do you have a map? Show me. Good. This is where you'll find the site. I recommend you take a Myrad to the Frostcliff Tavern and walk from there. You will. Ask. Yes. Shady business. I do not consider our business as shady. It is merely the circumstances which make it appear as such. Ultimately, it's a simple bargain. We offer the people safety, and they pay us for it. No different from what the guards do for the noblemen. Fair point. However, if we were to permit the people down here to form their own militias, it would merely be a matter of moons until these militias would turn into gangs and start fighting each other. We ensure stability, and all we ask for in return is a small tribute. Those who have nothing to give do not need to pay. Ah, yes, the tribunal. The epitome of law and order, isn't it? But yes, I see why our ways of delivering justice might seem barbaric to you. You would think differently about it if you had spent some years in my position. Why? Because the Undercity is the place our movement was born. I have considered a change of location several times, but the more I thought about it, the more I came to realize the perks of this place. For example, it is far easier to spread the Rhalata from here than it would be from a secluded monastery somewhere in the mountains. Not to mention the history this place now has. Maybe, maybe not. But you need to understand it is neither my intent to cause suffering nor to change the world for the better. I'm a scientist whose goal it is to achieve transcendence for my lambs and for myself. That is all. Well observed. Yes, it is. When I created the Rhalata, I drew inspiration from a myriad of philosophical, religious, and spiritual writings, and some of these were Kyranian. Rhalata Shera means a variety of things. See the Rhalata. I see the Rhalata. The Rhalata knows. Take your pick. Good question. I suppose it is because you are different somehow. You have a presence that fascinates me, and even though I do not understand why it does, it was enough to spark my interest. It is. Ask the Lightborn. Extending one's life a little is not as hard as you may think, but I am not immortal, if that is what you wanted to know. I'm afraid an appropriate answer would take more time than we can spare. Suffice it to say that psionics is a powerful school when mastered. Allow me to answer with another question. Of all the characteristics that make you the person you are, which one is paramount? That hair on your cheeks? The piece of meat between your legs? Or that which allows you to have this conversation with me? Exactly. If I were to extract your consciousness and transfer it into a new artificial body, you'd still be the same person, only in a different vessel. Gender is just another asinine attribute we wrongly identify ourselves with. Isn't it ludicrous if you think about it? We are so proud of what apparently separates us from animals, yet we blindly submit ourselves to the domination of our flesh. Young, old, beautiful, hideous, man, woman, all descriptors of something ultimately irrelevant. I wasn't. My vessel has always had aspects of both genders, but the time when I attributed any importance to this fact is long since past. It is, isn't it? Probably because I never considered myself a spiritual leader. I am a scientist. In fact, I don't think much of religion. Knowledge, introspection, and silence are the keys to spiritual growth, not blind obedience to the rules as religion preaches it. I will try to answer. I'm afraid I don't have an answer to that. It could be that we see what the Butcher of Ark saw, but I do not think that will happen. As I said, the room always shows us that which we must see. It has the power to change us, but what this change ultimately looks like depends on our intentions as we enter it. There are plans, but I do not expect that to happen.
A stranger. What do you need?